Hello, BookTube. I've got a little mail for you today on an absolutely beautiful day. Air like a swimming pool. Just bright, but not brassy. Warm, but not hot. Just lovely. Just absolutely lovely. The type of day that tempts even a sedentary couch potato such as myself to go out and about, walking around with my best friend, which we will probably do. But I've got some packages here, and one periodical. And I thought we'd go through. The periodical is The New Yorker, with a terrific cover there. You at first glance you think it's an exclusive nightclub, right? Because it's got the velvet rope and the surly bouncers, but it's actually just a reflection on Manhattan's rental market, where it's so exclusive that you need to line up for the chance to just ask to rent a space. This has a whole bunch of pieces in it that I'm sure that I will like, or that I will find interesting. There's a kind of a roundup of all of those kinds of books on the value and poetry of trees that we've seen. We've seen a lot of those on this channel, and I have a few of those still that have survived the cull. So when I finish that piece, I'm sure that it will go in one of those. But there's also a poem, and it's Poetry Thursday, so I thought we'd read it together and see what we make of it. It's by Megan Fernandez, and it's called On Your Departure to California. Prayer for you out west, where night falls only after mine. The second curtain, that enigmatic dark and daylight so clarifying it hurts. Prayer for the headless deer in Saratoga and the 30 lobster shells we buried in a small Connecticut town. For the elementary school kids rushing headfirst into the Brooklyn twilight. For the poets who came before and saw the purple northeast, blizzard full, but no quakes, and wanted nothing else. For the gold shops of Jackson Heights and the dead soldiers in Mount Auburn. For the dead who just want to remain dead and not dance into the speech of men. For the tiny churches and their sullied bells. For every gas station. For every tri-states. Yes, even for Jersey's ease. For Cafe Paulette, our last meal before the city fell. Prayer for our Hart Crane. For our bridge, the blue one. For your return to Prospect Park, where I'll be waiting, smug, dripping in city bees. Prayer for you, queen of the wide air, and your happy flights and scraped-up knees, and the young fields behind you. Prayer for the sand-whipped Rockaway beach, where we spent a birthday and fought the wind. You ran into the cold May ocean, and I thought, am I going to have to go in if she gets caught? Just as you rose from the water and waved. And I like that a lot. It has all sorts of problems. It's not poetry, for instance, and it does what I hate. All contemporary poetry does it, and I hate it every time, which is the complete closed, obscure references. The headless deer in Saratoga is something that Megan Fernandez's daughter, this is obviously a poem about sending your daughter off to school across the country. So you're in Jersey, you're sending her off to California. And that reference is something that only she and her daughter, and maybe the close family friends who they've talked to and told the anecdote to, will know anything about. It does not make sense in the context of the poem, and it cannot make sense. Unless you know the author, it cannot make sense. So it's just sitting there as a line, which I hate. That took over poetry and is now the rule in poetry rather than the exception, and I hate it. But I thought this was absolutely lovely. Just absolutely lovely. The flashes of evocation, of youth, of the fact that your daughter isn't just going away to school in California, she's leaving childhood behind, right? We have that line for the elementary school kids rushing headfirst into the Brooklyn twilight. And we're told that how is she called? Queen of the wide air is leaving her young fields behind her. You're leaving your young fields behind you. That's all very touching and wonderfully done. And I very much like the ending, with the memory of Rockaway Beach, where the mother worriedly watches the child dive into the cold ocean in exactly the same way that this mother can't help herself but worrying about sending her child away to school. But what happened in that Rockaway Beach memory? The child surfaced right away and was just fine. Pretty good contemporary poem for Poetry Thursday. So that was the periodical. Then there are two books I want to show you that I opened off camera. I want to make sure you know about them. One is coming out in August, and this is by Mark William Jones, and it's called 1923. There we have a fascist politician right in the middle there, who is He's getting ready. In 1923, he is working his way up to developing a systematic program for pauperizing anyone who's not a millionaire, for criminalizing homosexuality, for instituting a revanchist Christianity that clamps down on freedoms instead of extolling them, and who in 1923 was being laughed at as an unelectable joke. Always good to know that such a fascist politician is right in the center of this poem, of this cover. So let's see here. This is a deeply researched and gripping tale of democracy's endurance in the face of fascism. Although Germany would eventually succumb to tyranny just a decade later, 1923 illustrates both how and why Germans preserved their republic from almost certain collapse amidst a year of crises and unrest. The author deftly weaves expert geopolitical analysis with personal accounts of civilians' everyday experiences during that year. By examining individual conflicts, the rape or murder of women under French occupation, the increase in nationalist rhetoric, the widespread anti-Semitic violence, for example. Anti-Semitic violence was on the rise and was very explicitly endorsed by this fascist figure. And his rampant nationalism took the form of, if we translate it into English, Germany first. Just so we're clear on all of this, this was 1923. This was 1923. 1923. The author further explains how the events of 1923 became the source of the anger and emotion behind the mobilization of the German people in support of the Nazi Party. Part of that anger derived from the fact that the fascist politician at the heart of all this swore up and down repeatedly, whenever he was interviewed, whenever he gave speeches, that he had been stabbed in the back. Otherwise, all the world's good things would have come to him in the natural course of events. He was stabbed in the back, and we know who did the stabbing, right? I think he referred to them as the libs. Oh, no, that's not this 23. This book offers readers a sobering lesson. In 1923, the German Republic was strong enough to survive because of the strength of its democracy. But a decade later, after consistent erosion from the political right and extreme left, it was too weak to fend off the growing threat of fascism. This tragic outcome is a powerful reminder that even strong democracies, if they are continually undermined from within, may eventually collapse into authoritarianism. And the author is an assistant professor of history at the University College Dublin. So this is coming out in August. So this is about a century ago. This is about a very powerful, modern, Western world, or Western nation, a century ago. Where in the YouTube of the day, everyone listening to my voice then said, well, that's an interesting historical parallel, but it can't happen here. So it'd be pretty interesting to read come August. And then this other one, I don't have a sheet on it, but I think this is a July release, even though it's a finished copy. This is a finished copy from Yale, and this is by Hans Ulrich Weimer, translated by John Noel Dillon, and it is a biography of Theodoric the Great. Nice big hefty thing. First biography of Theodoric the Great we've had in a while. Let's just read from the dust jacket since we don't have the sheet for it. In the year 493, the leader of a vast confederation of Gothic warriors, their wives and children, cut down Odoacer, the man famous for deposing the last Roman emperor in 476. That leader became Theodoric the Great. This engaging history of his life and reign immerses readers in the world of the warrior king who ushered in decades of peace and stability in Italy as king of Goths and Romans. Theodoric transformed his roaming warrior nation from the periphery of the Roman world into a standing army that protected his tax-paying Roman subjects with the support of the Roman elite. With a ruling strategy of integration through separation, Theodoric not only stabilized Italy, but also extended his kingdom to the Western Balkans, southern France, and the Iberian Peninsula. And this is a new biography using sources as diverse as letters, poetry, coins, and mosaics. So who is the author? He's a professor of ancient history, and he's published books on Alexander the Great, Hellenistic history, and historiography. And his translator is a lecturer in Latin at Yale Divinity School. Nice big hefty biography, one of steadily increasing trickle of hefty biographies coming out in 2023. And then we have the packages. Let's do the packages and then get this mail haul done because a mountain of work. I want to do my regular regimen of BookTube videos. I don't want to neglect that if I can help it. Let's see what this next one is. Put that down there. What have we got here? Oh, it's a novel. Okay. All right, this is a novel that comes out on the 4th of July. The 4th of July is a federal holiday here in the United States and one of the most de facto holidays of all. It's not like some of the holidays on our calendar are fairly working holidays. The 4th of July is not. So your book coming out on the 4th of July is utterly ridiculous. Your book is coming out, no one's going to be shipping crates of books on the 4th of July. No one's going to be working in bookstores or putting out books on the 4th of July. No one's going to be shopping in bookstores on the 4th of July. But early July, you know what I mean. This is by Jenna Clark, and it is called Disturbance. Another very good American cover. Oh, and it's her debut. How fantastic. Oh, wow. A debut from W.W. Norton with a cover this good. Fantastic. In this novel, we're introduced to a young woman spying on her teenage neighbor, transfixed by what looks like an occult ritual intended to banish an ex-boyfriend. Alone in a new town and desperate to expel the claustrophobic memories of her own ex, the narrator decides to try to hex herself free from her past. But when the creaks and hums of her apartment escalate into something more violent, she realizes she may have brought her boyfriend's presence, whether psychological or paranormal, back to haunt her. With astonishing emotional depth and clarity, this novel explores the fallout of abuse. Propulsive and wry, this razor-sharp debut twists witchcraft and horror into a powerful narrative of one woman's struggle to return to herself. Okay. A boyfriend exorcism, an ex-exorcism. How interesting. And this author lives in England. Okay, fantastic. All right, well, this is an early July release, and I'm not going to be getting to it, before then. But always good to add a debut novel to the roster. I love them so much. And then we'll do this. We have a box here. It's fairly lightweight, so much so that it might be from one of you. It doesn't feel like it comes from a publisher. Let's just rip this thing open and find out what we're dealing with here. Such a beautiful day. I have so much work to do, but I am determined, no matter how much work I have to do, I am determined to enjoy this day. It's just too nice not to. And especially so since I feel like I'm owed it, because yesterday was such a rotten day. Yesterday was so hit or miss. Even the weather. I mean, the weather was lovely for part of the day, but it was also spotty showers for part of the day. So what have we got? What have we got here? Let's see what this is. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, well there might be a note with this that I've thrown away in the packaging, but this is definitely from one of you. One of you found a book that I want, and you found it and you sent it to me. How incredible. How absolutely incredible. Okay. This is by George Goodspeed, and this is his book, The Bookseller's Apprentice. One of you found a hardcover of this thing. It's a Boston bookseller, a byword for books in Boston. Goodspeed's shop was for a long, long time. Fortunately, I lived long enough to experience that, to experience it pretty vividly, pretty immediately. I can't believe one of you did this. This is just so nice. We're going to have to check the packaging to see if there's a note. But whoever sent this, thank you very, very much. Let's read the dust jacket here. For nearly a century, Goodspeed's in Boston was one of the world's preeminent rare book shops. The firm was founded in 1898 by Charles Eliot Goodspeed, who recorded the shop's early history in his book, Yankee Bookseller, published in 1937. The Bookseller's Apprentice is written by Goodspeed's son, George, who worked at the shop first as an employee and then as its director for over 70 years, from 1924 until the shop closed in 1995. In this new book, he recalls the rarities which passed through Goodspeed's hands, the great collectors with whom he dealt, and more, and the friendships with writers like Robert Frost, David McCord, and Edmund Wilson. More a series of reflective pieces than a strict continuation of his father's shop history, these memoirs provide unique glimpses into one of America's most distinguished rare book firms. And I mentioned this in the course of an earlier video, probably last year. One of you must have been really paying attention or just come across the video. I knew George Goodspeed well. I knew his shop well. I went there pretty much every day for a good visit, not necessarily to shop. And it's important to remember here that Goodspeed's wasn't just a rare collectible bookshop. It was a big, bustling, used bookstore, just an ordinary kind, that ordinary people could go and browse in. Carts outside or all of the carts, all of the shelves inside. I can't believe I have this. Well, that is fantastic. One of you sent this to me. How incredible. I have the best followers in the world, best subscribers in the world. Okay, well, the Bookseller's Apprentice is going to get pride of place on the read tonight. I mean, how could it not? But that is the start of our Steve Pyramid. The Bookseller's Apprentice by George Goodspeed. Incredible. We have Theodoric the Great, a new biography. We have Disturbance, Jenna Clark's debut novel. And we have 1923, which a historian looks at the perilous state of affairs in Germany in 1923. So that's the mail for today. That plus the New Yorker, in which we read a poem. So there's the mail on a gorgeous day. I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.